Ever find yourself hitting refresh on your inbox after messaging your doctor?
Oh, yeah.
It's like we're stuck waiting for some magic internet doctor to give us the okay.
Right.
And that's just us on the patient side. Imagine being the doctor dealing with thousands of these messages.
Yeah, that's the reality for a lot of doctors these days. They're drowning in messages.
So today we're diving into some new research about this very problem and a potential solution that involves AI.
And it's not just a handful of messages we're talking about here. The research we're looking at today found that places like the Mayo Clinic are getting hit with around 5,000 messages every single day.
5,000.
5,000. And a full 20% of those are patients looking for medical advice.
I can't even imagine trying to sort through that many messages, let alone respond to them all in a timely and helpful way.
It's a huge burden on doctors' time, and it can really take a toll on them.
So how do we even begin to address this problem?
Well, that's where this AI solution comes in. It's called RadOnc-GPT, and it's designed to help doctors respond to patient messages specifically about prostate cancer.
Okay, so it's not just some general AI chatbot trying to tackle every medical question under the sun.
Right. It's specialized. What makes RadOnc-GPT really interesting is that it's not just spitting out canned responses. It can actually access and integrate a patient's medical records.
Whoa. So it's tailoring information to the individual patient. That's pretty impressive.
It is, and that's what makes it so potentially game-changing.
So how did the researchers even begin to test something like this?
So they took 158 real patient messages about prostate cancer, all sorts of questions, things like test results, side effects, medications, you name it.
Basically the kind of stuff that would normally flood a doctor's inbox.
Exactly. And then they had both RadOnc-GPT and a group of actual doctors respond to those messages.
Okay, so it's like an AI versus human doctor showdown.
Kind of. They wanted to see how the responses stacked up against each other.
So who judged this showdown? How did they decide which responses were better?
Well, they brought in a team of doctors and nurses, and here's the catch. They didn't tell them which responses came from the AI and which came from the human doctors.
A blind test. That's clever. So did the AI pass the test? Did it fool the judges? All right, spill it. Did RadOnc-GPT manage to fool the judges?
Well, it's funny you should put it that way because one of the areas where RadOnc-GPT really stood out was empathy.
Hold on. Empathy from an AI.
I know, right? You'd think clarity would be a slam dunk for AI, but empathy, that's surprising, right?
It is surprising, and we're talking about an AI somehow conveying empathy in its responses to patients.
It really makes you think about the nuances of how we communicate empathy and how AI systems might be able to tap into that.
So how did RadOnc-GPT actually do in the other areas where the human doctors have had years of, medical school and experience?
Yeah, so the doctors did score higher when it came to things like providing complete and accurate information.
Which makes sense, right?
Of course. But here's the thing. RadOnc-GPT wasn't too far behind.
Interesting. So it was able to hold its own.
Pretty much. And get this.
Yeah.
In some cases, it actually provided more information than the human doctors.
More information. Now, that's interesting. It's like the AI is super thorough, almost like having an assistant double-checking everything.
Exactly. And it brings up a really interesting point. Think about the potential for AI to help doctors be even more efficient and comprehensive in their communication with patients.
It's like having an AI sidekick to help manage the information overload.
Precisely. And speaking of information overload, time is precious, right?
Especially in healthcare. We're all about efficiency these days.
Absolutely. So let's talk about time. The study actually found that RadOnc-GPT could save nurses an average of 5.2 minutes per message.
Over 5 minutes per message. That's huge. I mean, think about all the things nurses could do with that extra time.
Right. It could make a real difference in their workload. But it's not just nurses. The study found that doctors could save an average of 2.4 minutes per message, too.
2 minutes here, 5 minutes there, it all adds up.
It really does. And when you start factoring in the sheer volume of messages doctors are dealing with, those minutes turn into hours, and those hours, well, they have a real dollar value.
Okay, so let's talk money. What kind of savings are we talking about here?
Well, the study estimated that for a place like the Mayo Clinic, using RadOnc-GPT could potentially save them a whopping $2.28 million per year.
$2.28 million. Okay, now we're talking. Suddenly investing in AI seems like a no-brainer. But before we get too carried away, Are there any limitations to this technology? I mean, it can't be all sunshine and roses, right?
You're right. It's important to remember that this study was retrospective.
Okay.
So they were analyzing data from past patient interactions. It's not a perfect reflection of how things might play out in real time.
So more research is needed before we unleash RadOnc-GPT on the world.
Exactly. We need more real-world testing. And there's another big limitation. Right now, RadOnc-GPT can't process images or files.
Which is a pretty big deal in healthcare, right? People are always sending pictures of their rashes or whatever to their doctors.
Exactly. And for now, RadOnc-GPT wouldn't be able to make sense of that kind of visual information.
So it sounds like there's still a lot of work to be done, but the potential is definitely there. What's next for RadOnc-GPT? Where do the researchers go from here? So where do the researchers go from here? What's next for RadOnc-GPT?
Well, one of the really exciting things they're looking at is how to integrate RadOnc-GPT into real-time patient interactions.
So instead of just analyzing past data, it would actually be interacting with patients in the moment.
Exactly.
Right.
Imagine you send your doctor a message about a side effect you're experiencing, and boom, you get a response within minutes.
Okay, now that would be a game changer. No more waiting anxiously for days to hear back.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
can really transform the patient experience. And it's not just about speed either, because RadOnc-GPT can access your medical records and tailor its responses to your specific situation.
It's like having a personalized AI assistant for your health.
Right. And that kind of personalized support could make a huge difference for patients, especially those who are dealing with something as complex and often overwhelming as prostate cancer.
It sounds like RadOnc-GPT has the potential to really bridge that communication gap that can sometimes exist between patients and doctors.
Absolutely. And it could empower patients to take a more active role in their own health care. When you have access to accurate and up-to-date information, you can ask better questions and advocate for yourself more effectively.
It's like having a medical expert in your pocket 24/7.
Exactly. And that kind of accessibility could really change the game for patients.
This has been a fascinating deep dive. Thanks for breaking down this research with us.
My pleasure. It's an exciting time to be following the developments in AI and healthcare.
It certainly is. Well, that's all the time we have for today, but we'll be back next time with another deep dive into the world of cutting-edge research. So until then, stay curious and stay tuned.